So thank you, first of all, for inviting me. My name is Paul Horbal, as just mentioned. I'm a patent attorney and chair of the FinTech group at Bereskin and Parr. We're an intellectual property boutique here in Toronto. And today I want to talk to you about making the most of your great ideas. And I know in the audience we have some serial entrepreneurs who are looking to make an exit or looking to make their next exit. And we'll have some others that are in it probably for the long haul. They want to build a really successful business, maybe be the next PayPal or even bigger than that. And I hope that what I'm going to tell you today is useful for everyone in the room, and we'll learn something. So a great business has great ideas, and ideas can help start the business in the first place, or they can help make it grow. And if everything goes right, you might be able to maximize your return on those great ideas, like some of these companies up here have done. And if you look at some of these headlines that I've drawn, you've got JP Morgan that bought a company called WePay for $400 million, it was rumored. TIO Networks acquired by PayPal for around $230 million. And very recently, here in Toronto, there was a company called Layer 6 that was acquired by TD Bank. Layer 6 had 17 employees and had been around for about a year. And the rumored value of this deal is $100 million. So that's a pretty significant exit for a company that's been around for 1 year. So how did they do this? I don't know. I'm not a business expert. But unless TV has lied to me for my entire life, the people that I'm about to show you are experts, and they have their own thoughts, and I'm going to share them. Why are the sharks so interested in patents? There's a couple of reasons. One is if you have a patent, there is the prospect, though not the guarantee, there's a prospect of market exclusivity. You might be able to freeze out your competitor from doing something really valuable or from selling something really valuable and leave that for yourself. Another thing that a patent gives you that's really important is that it creates an asset that exists and is owned by the company. If you leave or if other founders leave the company, that asset remains with the company, and that can give investors a lot of confidence in that company. And obviously those assets can be sold or they can be licensed to your competitors or to other parties that are not competitive and generate a revenue stream. And of course, patents are a way of measuring innovation. It's a crude measure, but it is a measure, and it gives people that are looking to invest in your company or just otherwise evaluating your company an idea of how much work you're doing and how many innovative ideas you've come up with. Now, patents also they don't do everything. They're not all singing and all dancing. You can't expect if you get a patent that there's someone going to drive a dump truck full of money to your office and just leave it there. And it's not a license to operate either. Sometimes people have a misconception that once you have the patent, that it means you're free and clear, you'll never be sued by a patent troll. That's not how it works. You still have to worry about what your competitors have patented and what other intellectual property they have. And of course, patents aren't for everybody. It's an expensive process. And at the end of the day, it may be that it's not for you. And I'm not going to try and no competent patent attorney is going to try and convince you to go for patents where it doesn't make sense. But you may still be asking yourself, what am I supposed to patent? What can I patent? So if you are a fintech startup, and if you are, like many of the people in this room, you're probably in the or you're thinking about blockchain, you may be working on blockchain technology. And what I have here is a chart showing just in the United States, patent applications, not granted patents, but patent applications that were filed in the last 8 to 10 years. Well, yeah, since 2010. Obviously in 2010, almost nobody was thinking about blockchain because frankly, it had only been around for, I think, months at that time. And nobody had filed for patent applications. And then in the next couple of years, there's a little bit of activity, and then you see a real ramp up. In 2014, close to 200 patent applications filed. In 2015, almost double that amount, and rising through 2016. And you see a little bit of a drop off in 2017. And that's not because people stopped filing patent applications. That's because when patent applications are filed, they remain secret for 18 months. And so we don't have a window into what actually has been filed in the last 18 months. And so as a result, there's a little bit of a prediction there. Take it for what it's worth. I mean, it's just a prediction. And so, and then if you're not in the blockchain space, you may be thinking about machine learning or artificial intelligence. And I've heard of that term come up quite a bit. And here's the trend or the bar chart for artificial intelligence. Same thing in the United States, patent applications filed since 2010. That number is going up every year. And it started around 2,000 patent applications being filed every year. it's now closer to 5,000, maybe 6,000 patent applications being filed every year in the United States, just applications that mention artificial intelligence or machine learning. So what do you need to get a patent? If you've been convinced by this presentation so far that you really need to get into the space, number one, you need a new idea. You need an idea that hasn't been made public, hasn't been disclosed on a website, in a publication like a white paper or anything like that. If you have disclosed something, I hope it's been within the 1 year. If it's in the last year, then there is still hope of getting a patent application filed. But if it's beyond that year, you may be out of luck. And I encourage you to evaluate that if you're worried about that. It must be new, it must be not obvious. Those two things are kind of related. Not obvious means that a person of average skill in that area, in that technology area, wouldn't have just thought of it just randomly from what's already available. It took a degree of effort to get that invention. And finally, you have to have the right subject matter. You have to have the right stuff for getting a patent. And that means that you're not just dealing with an algorithm, not just an abstract idea, not just a scientific theorem. And so I thought a useful example here to illustrate this might be from the TV show Silicon Valley. You may be familiar with this show. Pied Piper is the company in the show, and they're a startup. They developed this breakthrough file compression technology. And what's at the core of the technology is this algorithm, this middle out algorithm that they develop. That algorithm by itself, not patentable. But they use it, they apply it in the show, and one of the first things they do with it is they use middle out for file compression and saving space on file servers, and then later they use it for video chat and they save bandwidth, and it enables a really great experience. Those applications of the algorithm are patentable, or could be patentable if they meet the other criteria of being new and not obvious. And so you may be wondering, well, I guess just to take it back to the original examples, the companies I mentioned earlier, WePay is one example. WePay has patents. They have a patent on identity verification and risk analysis. And maybe that factored into the valuation that they got from JP Morgan. I don't know, I don't have any inside information, but that could have been a factor. And the same goes for a company here closer to home in Vancouver, a company called New Data Security that was acquired by MasterCard. They have patents on identity fraud detection or credit fraud detection. And that may have helped lead to their acquisition. And finally, I just wanted to mention that patents are not the only type of intellectual property. Even if you're not thinking about patents or you don't think they're appropriate for you, you should still think about copyright protection, trade secrets protection, trademarks themselves, trademark like the FintechTO logo, which is really great. And finally, one last thing that we absolutely don't have time to talk about tonight, but really should be something that can be considered is industrial design protection, which can exist if you're working on mobile apps or websites. The graphic designs that go into that, the graphic layouts, those can be protected through something called industrial design protection, or in the United States this is called a design patent. You can say it's patent pending, and it is something that's worth considering, particularly if you're in the mobile application space. And that's it.
Questions?
Thank you. Maybe my question is very newbie, but I have the experience of trademark, which I know in the minimum with 500 Canadian dollar, you can trademark a word. Can I have an idea about the cost of, an average cost of a patent?
That's an excellent question. It really depends on a number of things. One is, where do you want to file the patent? Where do you want patent protection to exist? Because it's national in scope. So let's say just in Canada, the government fees alone are roughly comparable to what you just mentioned for a trademark. Where a lot of the extra cost, or a lot of the cost of the patent application comes from, is in the attorney time to prepare the application. And so that is very variable, and I would hate to give an estimate in front of a crowd this large and then be held to it later on. But let's just say that it's significantly higher than just a trademark application. And I would encourage you to speak to a legal professional to get a more accurate estimate.
I wanted to ask about, my name is Yemi. I wanted to ask about the lifespan of a patent. So if I decide to have one, how long would it be useful for? How long can I get licensing fees from it?
Yeah, if I understood the question, how long does a patent last for? The term of the patent? Most patents have a term that's measured from the date that the application is filed. So even before it's granted, the clock is already ticking, and that clock is usually set at 20 years. So from the date the patent application is filed, you have 20 years of protection, potentially, and that protection really starts once the patent is issued. So a patent goes through an examination process before it becomes a patent, and then once it's issued, then you can enforce it. You can get other people to stop doing what you've claimed as your own under the patent. I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
Last question.
Hi, my name is Nadia. You talked about patent patents in the US. How about Europe, Asia, Latin America? Like, do you file for patent globally once for all, or do you have to file in each? And like, let's say you have patent in the US that lasts for 20 years, but could you get somebody in Asia to do it, and then you couldn't go into the Asian market?
That's an excellent question. Yes, patents are national in scope, and so wherever you want protection to exist, you have to file for protection in that country. There is an international system for applying for patents, but as of now, there is no international patent system where you can get a single document that covers all countries. You have to go to each country individually and go through the examination process and get a patent granted, and then you can enforce it. I showed the US as an example because it is one of the largest patent regimes in the world. It's our neighbor, and a lot of companies, even Canadian companies, file only in the United States even before they think about Canada, just because the size of the market makes sense for them. You can file for patent protection in other countries, and routinely we have clients that file in Europe and China, Japan, and we work with associates in those countries to get things done. Yeah, you do have to file for protection in those countries. And I think the second part of the question was whether someone else could apply for patent protection in those other countries and simultaneously prevent you from entering into those countries. It is theoretically possible, but the hurdle for that is that the person who files in those other countries, the company that files in those other countries, would need to satisfy the novelty requirement. They would also have to be new, and your own patent application that you file, say in the United States, once it's published in 18 months, as I mentioned before, once it's published, it now precludes other people from filing in those other countries. So it doesn't tend to be a strategy that many people pursue, and you don't see that very often. But it can happen. You get simultaneous invention, and different people apply for patents in different countries, or even sometimes in the same country.
Thank you.